Arav lived in a peaceful village where mornings began with birdsong and evenings faded into the sound of crickets. On the outside, his life looked simple and calm, but inside, he carried a storm. Arav had grown up believing he was ordinary, too ordinary to achieve anything big. Whenever life challenged him, he stepped away. Whenever a task felt difficult, he convinced himself it wasn't meant for him. He quit easily, and every failure hardened that belief a little more. One day, after failing an exam he had spent months preparing for, Arav felt something inside him collapse. He walked out of his house without telling anyone, hoping the quiet outside would silence the noise in his mind. His feet led him into the forest behind the village, a place he hadn't visited since childhood. The tall trees formed a green tunnel around him, and the cool breeze brushed against his face, but it didn't bring the comfort he hoped for. His thoughts kept repeating the same message: "You're not good enough. You will always fail." As he followed the winding path deeper into the forest, he spotted an enormous banyan tree, ancient, wide, and majestic, casting a large shadow on the ground. Under that tree, sitting calmly like he belonged to the silence, was a gray-bearded old man dressed in simple white clothes. His presence felt peaceful, almost unreal. Arav tried to pass quietly, but the man opened his eyes, looked at him with surprising clarity, and said, "You look tired, not of walking, but of life." Something about the man's voice broke the wall inside Arav. He sat down without hesitation, the weight of his failure pressing heavily on his shoulders. He told the old man how he always worked hard but somehow ended up failing, how he tried to be strong but ended up quitting when things became difficult. "Maybe I'm not meant for success," he whispered. The old man didn't react with shock, pity, or advice. Instead, he slowly pointed toward the highest mountain in the distance, a mountain covered with mist even on the brightest days. "Do you see that mountain?" he asked gently. "It is called the Mountain of One More Step. Whoever climbs it, not fast, not strong, but patiently, returns changed." Arav frowned. "How do I climb it?" The old man replied with the calmness of someone who had seen many lives. "Whenever you feel like stopping, take one more step." Before Arav could ask anything more, the old man stood up and walked into the trees. Within a few seconds, he vanished, as if he had dissolved into the forest itself. Something in Arav awakened at that moment. Maybe curiosity, maybe desperation, maybe hope. He walked toward the giant mountain and stood at its base. It looked impossible. The rocks were sharp, the path was not clear, and the peak was hidden behind clouds. But he placed his foot on the first stone and began. The initial climb was relatively simple, and for a moment he felt confident. But as he climbed higher, the path became uneven. Sharp stones pressed against his soles. His legs began to burn. Sweat rolled down his back, and the sun felt hotter with each passing minute. Soon, the familiar voice in his head whispered, "Just go back. This is not for you." He almost turned around, but the old man's words echoed softly in his mind. One more step. So he took one step, and another, and another. After an hour, his energy dropped. His shirt was wet with sweat. His knees trembled slightly. He leaned against a rock, exhausted and frustrated. "Why did I even start this?" he muttered. But then he reminded himself again, just one more step. Not 10, not 50, just one. He pushed himself up and continued. As the sun began to set, clouds gathered over the peak. Within minutes, a storm formed. Fierce winds whipped dust into his eyes. The sky darkened. Rain hit the mountain like pellets. Arav struggled to stay balanced. his clothes drenched, his hair plastered to his forehead. The storm felt personal, as if the mountain wanted to throw him off. Cold, trembling, and scared, he shouted into the chaos. Why is everything so hard for me? Why can't life be easier? The lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the peak for a brief second. In that moment of clarity, he realized something powerful. The storm was not there to stop him. It was there to teach him how to endure. Every challenge he had run away from in life had only grown bigger because he never faced it. But this storm, right here, right now, was shaping him. He wiped the water from his eyes, took a shaky breath, and whispered, "One more step." And he moved again. By the time the storm passed, night had arrived. The mountain was swallowed in darkness. The only sound was the distant howl of the wind. Arav could barely see the path, and every step felt uncertain. He stumbled, fell, and used his hands to feel the rocks ahead. Fear filled his chest. Fear of slipping. Fear of falling. Fear of failing again. But strangely, something inside him felt lighter in the darkness. He could no longer see how far he had left to go, so he focused only on the next step. Each slow movement forward became a small victory. He whispered to himself again and again, "If I can walk in this darkness, I can walk through the darkness in my life." Hours later, he noticed a faint glow on the horizon. Dawn was approaching. The sky slowly shifted from black to deep blue, then to gentle shades of orange and pink. When the sunlight touched the mountain, Arav finally saw how close he was to the top. He felt tears rise to his eyes, not because of pain, but because of everything he had endured to reach this point. But the final stretch was the steepest and most unforgiving. The path narrowed sharply, with rocks sticking out and barely enough space to place a foot. His body was weak, his muscles burned, and his breath trembled. His mind whispered, "You've done enough. It's okay to stop." But his heart answered with quiet determination, "One more step." He climbed slowly, gripping each rock with trembling fingers. His legs shook, his arms ached, but he did not stop. Finally, after pushing himself beyond every limit he thought he had, Arav reached the peak. The world beneath him stretched endlessly. Forests, rivers, villages, and skies painted with morning light. But the greatest transformation wasn't the view. It was him. He was no longer the boy who gave up easily. He was the man who climbed a mountain, not with strength, but with persistence. He understood now that success doesn't belong to the talented or the lucky. It belongs to those who take one more step when everything inside them says stop. The morning breeze touched his face gently, almost like the mountain itself was welcoming him. And Arav closed his eyes, understanding a truth he would carry for the rest of his life. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to keep taking one more step,